Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome Gogo. Welcome
Welcome everyone.
Gogo. Welcome to day 7 of Demystifying African Spirituality Summit. I cannot believe it's been a week, but we have been doing this for the past 7 days. And today we are going to continue with our summit with Gogo Khanyakude for today as our guiding expert of the day. Welcome everyone. And for those who are joining us for the first time, this is how this will work. We will use the chat to greet, to comment, share our thoughts on what we are sharing throughout this session, and we will use the Q&A specifically for the Q&A section where we will ask questions, advising that we ask questions that are universal, although they might be personal to us, but allowing them to be universal for everyone else so that we can benefit from each question as well. And the Q&A will open 40 minutes into our conversation. We are a little bit delayed today, all of it, of course, technology, but we're here and we're ready to jump in. Okay, we're jumping in with Gogo Khanyakude. I'm pronouncing it the Setswana way, which might not be the right way. What is the right way, Gogo? Pardon?
There was a Gogo. I don't think there is the right way. Khanyakude. It's just your inflection.
I'm struggling to actually hear. Maybe we can increase the volume if possible to hear you.
Okay. Can you not hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Also, there's no right.
Yes, it's just in your accent, your intonation, but it is Khanyakude.
Khanyakude. Okay. Khanyakude. Okay. So it's just the accent. Okay. Great. Welcome, Gogo. We're so excited to have you here. Today we are talking the practical ways of decolonizing. The practical ways to decolonize, really, that's the perfect title. And our guide is Sangoma Govela Ngaka, and an indigenous system researcher, archiver, and practitioner, right?
So the Gogo, that is just about right.
Yes. So before we begin, we jump in and allow you to go deeper, telling us more about your journey. I wanted us to just set sacred space so that we feel even more grounded. I think the candles are grounding us, but we can even ground even more deeply. So wherever we are, just taking a deep breath in and out, and connecting with the sacred heart, our sacred heart that connects us to the divine, that connects us to each other, and allowing the sacred heart to be our anchor throughout this transmission that we're going to have, and opening our sacred heart to the support of our spiritual guides who we are inviting in today, inviting in our ancestors of blood and bones, our ancestors of the land, our ancestors of the stars, of the cosmic, inviting in our spirit deities, all the spirit deities, inviting in the spirit animals that walk with every one of us, inviting in our grandmothers, our grandfathers, the ancient ones, inviting in our intergalactic guides as well, and any other guide that we personally resonate with, archangels, ascended masters, and all light beings who are here supporting us at this point in time of our history as Black people, as African people, as the human race. And just inviting that support, that energy, that anchor to guide us throughout this transmission. So we are able to tap into divine intelligence and divine knowledge, divine wisdom and divine will of our sacred heart and the divine will of the spirit. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. Amen. Takosa.
That was powerful. That was so powerful. I could feel the energy.
Yes, yes. Just so we get more grounded and we call in our upstairs support team. Always love it when it's coming from that realm. Okay, so let's begin, Gogo, with taking this chance to share with everyone your journey with healing, with African spirituality, and also your journey with decolonizing the self, essentially.
So, if I could start and put it, the journey for me has been a very intimate one. Everything that I do in my practice, in my work, has been a journey to find itself. I can say it began because we always like to take things within time and space. But when I say began, I've always been inherently a spiritual person. But the events that led up to me being awakened to the truth of who I am, I could say it began when I left high school and I went to varsity. I completely started to go against the grain of the person that I understood myself to be. And I took it as a delayed rebellion. But as it went on, I realized that there was this simplicity that was within me. And when I was starting to maybe put my finger around understanding the duplicitous being within myself, I started to understand that there's a multiplicity of versions of me that live inside me that I can recognize are not actually intrinsically who I understood myself to be. So I was very ungrounded. I went through 5 years of floating, not having a direction and everything. And I didn't have the typical type of calling where I perhaps would meet someone who would tell me that you have a calling or this is what you're supposed to do and reveal something to me. So I didn't have the ancestral communication that is typical for most people where you have dreams and you see things through your dreams. So the journey in the 5 years, not take all the time speaking about that, is one that led me to actually go to certain places, experience certain things. And when I put all of that together and I looked at it in retrospect, I finally understood that there's something that is lacking inside me. And when I finally got to asking that question, that is when spirit then started to manifest and reveal as to what is it that is lacking inside. And subsequently, I went to an initiation in 2013 to spend a year and 3 months in initiation, which during that time, that was the most poignant happening in my life because I didn't only go to initiate in terms of those of blood and bone. I went to initiate where I went to also reclaim my identity because the homestead where I initiated is in a rural area where they still live a very vernacular lifestyle in terms of the culture, the traditions, and the practice. And that is also true for the whole community. So things like tribal authority, customary law, and all of that are very, very deep rooted in the everyday going about of the people there. You can say that there is development there, but the development hasn't really come with an inculturation where it changed so much the people in terms of how they socialize. And during that year and 3 months there, I got to understand so much that in the indigenous way of living, there is a certain kind of interconnectedness that makes sure that there's always a continuum, a flow, a coming together, a respect, and overall a sense of community. And from that, that's what birthed when I left, when I was brought back home to begin my journey as a healer. I fully understood it being revealed to me that part of what I need to do in the city is that a lot of people are seeking African knowledge and they need the healing from the African knowledge, but they do not understand the indigenous knowledge system that would then give them ability to access the healing that they're seeking. I understood that a lot of my healing work would have to be teaching people about the indigenous knowledge system as to understanding from the basic things as such as etiquette. What is African etiquette as to when you commune with the spiritual world, when you commune with elders, because a lot of that has been lost through all of our history that we're all very much aware of. And that's basically how my journey began in terms of my work.
Gogo, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So was a Gogo.
Okay, Togoza. Oh, I can hear you, but I am realizing that it might not be audible for other people as well. Is it possible to pull the camera closer to you?
All right.
Yes, a little bit.
Is it better now?
Yes. Okay, it is much better. Yes. Okay. Yes. I love the journey that you are in, that you've been in, and I think it's so powerful. Just it's making me think about my journey and how my journey has been. Although my journey it's kind of like been the opposite, where I grew up in a rural area and then came to the city, and having experienced both a life of the rural area and then coming to the city, and now it feels like I'm trying to go back to retrieve the way of life of my childhood years. And it's been an interesting experience altogether. Just trying to remember and reclaim all this that has always been available for us, and doing all of this in modern times. Yes, doing this in modern times. Okay, so may we talk about this indigenous systems that you are finding, first that you found for yourself in your own journey, that you had to reclaim or re-understand, and that have been really helpful in your own journey, and also as a teacher as well, and what you're teaching everyone who you interact with as a teacher.
So when we speak now in everyday talk, and with this topic of African identity being so much in the forefront, we speak about African spirituality, but when you then go into the study of the esoteric and the metaphysical, you understand that that is when I being in South Africa, it falls under Bantu cosmology and its healing modality. So in any kind of cosmology, in order to understand why we are called Bantu people and we have philosophies such as Ubuntu, which is our life philosophy, is our religion, it's our great belief system. As Zubab Credo Musa often so says, we need to be able to go back to the point where I understand what it means when they say, I am Mungu, I am Mungu, I am Bantu, I am of Abantu. So I said, now let's put it in South Africa. You have your Nguni tribe, which is your Zidis, your Xhosas, your Ndebeles, and your Swati. In that, people understand through the inculcation of our knowledge that those tribes have always been there and that's how it's always been. But when you then go into indigenous knowledge, you firstly have to become a historian to understand that those four tribes that I've just mentioned are all very young tribes. The tribe used to be of the Nguni people, and then during the time when the Portuguese came, they actually engineered for Mfecane, which is the thing that broke up the Nguni people and then birthed lineages such as those of the Ndebele founded by Mzilikazi, those that are Shangan now by Soshangane, those that are Swazi by Sokuza, which links to Swaziland. So that indigenous knowledge allows you to, when you're trying to reclaim your identity, because the tribal system was something that also was intentionally inculcated into our culture, because we were not tribalistic, because it all comes from Nguni roots. Let's say you are Xhosa, you are Swazi, as I've mentioned, or Ndebele, as I'm mentioning those examples. We sit now in this day and age where a Zulu person doesn't like Swazi people, doesn't find Shangan people ridiculous, and they think Xhosas are liars because they think they are all different, but they actually come from through blood and bone, from the same ancestry. They are actually the same people. They are of Nguni descent, and those Nguni people are from the Bantu people. And in that way, that is part of the work that I do, is that I try and break up these borders that we have along tribal lines, because we believe that it's such a deeply cultural thing that is African to be tribalistic. But tribalism is inherently un-African, because words such as clan, as tribes, were words that came up during the Berlin Conference, which divided Africa into borders. And those borders were not just borders of land, so borders of the mind, borders of the body, borders of the spirit. And those are things that need to be healed. And the only way we can begin to heal that is by understanding and decolonizing the mind through the knowledge and how we understand that there is a lot of what we assume is an African identity that we are proud of and embrace, which is inculturated, and it's a misappropriated cultural practice. So a lot of my work goes around provocation, challenging a lot of African beliefs that are hidden behind this is a cultural practice, when it's actually not a true cultural practice.
Wow. Yeah, this is so insightful and so just powerful and shifting, because we do take a lot of our cultures at face value, and we already believe this is how it was, and we're not really doing what you are doing, where you're now doing the research to find out really what is the origin, what is the real history, and what was the purpose of these divisions that are now existing as clans, that are now existing as borders, and so on. And it just for me, I'm thinking from a perspective, just maybe because of my background, always from a psychological point of view of what that did to us. These divisions as African people, this is this clan and so on. And we right now we often think that there is a tribal problem in Africa. In Botswana as well, we are always having conversations about some tribes being superior to other tribes, and some tribes being prioritized over other tribes, and how that has created a division at a psychic level, at a psyche, where we do feel inferior to our people, to each other. And then it becomes a big circle of where else do we feel inferior, with which races do we feel inferior, and how does this affect us, and affect how we live, how we interact with each other, and also at a deeper level affect our spirit as well, and how we connect with the spirit realm as well. So these are the questions that are coming up as we are sharing all of this. What are you finding in terms of what was the purpose? How has this division actually really affected us as Africa and our indigenous systems?
into all the Gogo. It's quite apparent as to how it's afflicted us as African people on a psychological level. Because spiritually, we sit and we believe that each of us have a different way of penetrating spirituality, African spirituality, through our rites of passage and initiation. We look at the superficial in terms of Kuri, if I am Swati and I do Guni style initiation, I do it like that. When I Umutwana, there's a way Tswana people do it. If you go to maybe Nigeria and you have to become a Babaloa, there's a certain way that they do it. So in it, because we look at the superficial, we will not be able to find that it's actually the same cosmology because it touches upon the same principalities of spirit. So psychologically, we have been wounded and we have become blocked where we can't see a cohesive thread and a flow in spirituality. I mean, to take it back again here to against South Africa, that's also why you find healers that believe in this separation and the style also of initiation, that they will say this, Badimo Bama law for you mustn't answer it with Badimo Besingu, you mustn't mix it with things of more. Yeah, that each thing needs to be its own separate thing, this compartmentalizing and boxing your spiritual gifts and giving them all attention at different times when you would not have um, five candles lit and then you take them to bring light to a large room, but then you go and spread them all in different directions where they can't come together and create a light. And that's what I feel a lot of the wounding and the blockages we have as African people on a psychological level is that even in our own spirituality, we can't reconcile that. How can it be possible that I, as a Swati person, can have an ancestor that comes from, let's say, your Nigeria, who requires for me to be able to understand the deeper spiritual system, and that will allow for me to be able to connect to the blood ancestors that are Swati that I recognize, who will then give me the conventional way of healing that I understand, because it's all one and part of the same thing. Because if we are sick on a psychological level, we'll never be able to actually heal the whole thing of the tribal system and the borders and the us versus them, because the rule of divide and conquer is real within us as an African people, in our as nations, as people of countrymen, along people as tribes people. It's just everywhere there is a division energy, and that stems from a psychological place. Because when it comes to knowledge, we understand the point of colonialization. We know what it was supposed to have done and what it's done. We know all of those effects, yet we are not able to move forward and change and become a better people because all of these things still carry energetically on our psychic level.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. This is like a high frequency transmission because my ear is getting buzzing. um, so thank you so much for this transmission. Uh, and now I've lost a bit of my track of thought because I'm like, oh, okay. But we were talking on Friday. My guest was Sangoma from Namibia, and we were actually talking about it, about how in the beginning it does feel like, for example, for us people in Botswana and other countries in Southern Africa, it does feel like the Tokoza tradition is more accessible for people to understand as compared to say maybe the Tswana tradition or the Namibian tradition. And we talked about how actually though they are actually similar, as you were just talking right now. It's just we use the different names and maybe different cultural practices, but they're all essentially for the same purpose, and they just have different names as well. So what I was interested in perhaps mapping for everyone who's joining, what you have discovered in terms of the African cosmology around healing, around our spirituality, that can be found all across Africa, or that we have forgotten or we are failing to actually see because of colonization?
Okay, so when we look at it, we can speak about the Bantu people. The Bantu people are the same Nubian people who built the pyramids in Egypt. The Bantu people are the same people that you find in Kenya. Your Bantu people are the same people that you find in Nigeria, that you find all the way right down here in South Africa. So in understanding what is a Bantu person, it goes into how do I look into what is a Bantu person. You can look at it and penetrate it through a structural thing. There are structures that are common all over Africa. The circular round hut, which is the place where we worship, that circular structure is common all over Africa. You'll find it everywhere. The swat that we use, Ishoba, which is from the Veldipias, it is common all over Africa. So the leopard skin, which shows royalty, is common all over Africa. And those are signs that show and are tied to the Bantu cosmology and how Bantu people identified with themselves. So if you're looking for a way to understand the oneness, you don't even have to go and then look at into things like what is the knowledge system, because the esoteric knowledge gets more and more complex when you want to start doing comparative esoteric knowledge systems. It needs for you to actually really understand it and have to be initiated. But if you're looking to understand our commonalities as African people, our people are practical. We live in a practical way. You can see it in the regalia. You can see it in the places of worship. You can see it in the rituals. It's the fact that it's such a big thing that when you give salutations to, when you speak to the ancestors, it's a commonality that you all face peace where the sun rises. That ties into you and can tell you that amongst the Bantu people, because you are people of the sun, we revered and worship the sun. And that's how you start to find commonalities, even when you speak to someone who speaks a different language. You ask them around, how do you practice your cultural thing? And you ask them that your kings also wear leopard skin. And when you see that there's synchronicity in that, you connect as people, because you see that we may be different in how we speak, in our appearance, but how we revere, how we connect and identify is inherently the same. Therefore, I then identify with you.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. It's easy to miss that. It's easy to miss the thread that actually connects us. It's easy to miss the oneness, as you were saying, just because of our history and what has happened. And that just constantly cements the separation that I was talking about, and feeling like we are different, and then we are trapped in that difference. And sometimes we even leave our ways, our knowledges, because it's better to just find something outside it that becomes common for every one of us. Which, yeah, which is like, it's like you say, it's a very complex conversation that goes deeper and deeper and deeper. As part of decolonizing the South, a conversation that comes up a lot with our indigenous practices and knowledge is that religion was introduced to us, Christianity specifically, I think in Southern Africa, primarily Christianity, and that has really affected and shifted our understanding of our indigenous knowledge, our systems spiritually, and so forth. May we speak about religion? I know it's a very, very big and controversial topic, but just like to just expand it a little bit for us to truly see how it has affected our indigenous practices and knowledges, and what we need to do to reclaim what we need to reclaim, what we can reclaim.
So when you speak of religion, because religion is has now become island that exists on its own, but religion is birthed by spirituality, which comes from the esoteric. So in the esoteric, any kind of fellowship or brotherhood or group of people that come together within a certain belief system and then try to then spread it, that is called then a cult. And the word cult, because in our society, a lot of the esoteric spiritual language has become so provocative that we don't use it in order to be able to further conversation. Words such as cult, immediately when you say cult, you'll think of the Ku Klux Klan or whatever. But a cult in its definitive meaning is a group of people that come together under and trying to spread it, and it's based on faith and it has a certain kind of ritual and processes. So in any sort of a cult that a person can then belong to, it's the same as in Ubungoma where you have imbandi, different sects or cults within that thing that have their way of initiation. So for me, what religion is that it's just an imbandi, a certain sect that has then made itself far more important than the actual spirituality from which it was birthed from, because they have been gotten to the highest point of refining systems and processes to be able to tend to stay within that state. So it's no longer so much about the spirituality offered by the cult, but it's more around things that ensure that people remain in that cult. And it goes for any sort of belief for me that becomes almost fanatical, because the purpose of any belief system is that it's supposed to liberate you. It's supposed to make you question so that you, and that's how we've created and invented so many things. It's not by blind faith and blind belief, it's by curiosity, wonder, challenging the status quo. That's why we're able to sit and have such platforms where we can speak to each other from all over the world. Yet when any belief system starts to become to the point where it is puritanical, like some of these like your Christianity becomes, or becomes almost like extremist, like some of your Islamic things are, etc., like all of the four main religions that are there, then it becomes destructive. Not that there is anything inherently wrong with it, but whenever it locks you away from that point of divinity that can become part of creation, there is then for me there is something inherently wrong that needs to be addressed. And it would not be the first time, because we sit here in Africa and you have your pyramids in Egypt, which reveals to you that there once upon a time was a civilization of people that were so advanced, far more advanced than we are, to have able to have had the technology to create the pyramid, that they got to a point of advancement where their advancements they made them want to then perhaps maybe control and feel as though they own that knowledge. And then that civilization, very little of it is traceable. And we, in our current global world, we live in a world where we have so many wicked problems. And wicked problems are problems that are life threatening or really, really grave, but have no possible solutions and ways to be sorted out. Things like poverty, things like global warming, etc. Our world is in crisis, yet we are also at the highest stage of development where we have technologies once again like the one we're using. And then we sit and we look, and the world seems to be governed by so much by religion. So many countries actually follow and are informed by religion. And yet religion, when you look at what it means now, is not allowing for people to be dynamic in thought, so we can let go of a lot of the things that we believe are rightfully supposed to be like that, because we are told to pray for whatever it is that you want. But that is actually not what spirituality teaches. That is can be revealed to you what it is that you need.
Mm. Mm. Yes. Yes. So important to differentiate the two, because I think that a lot of people might not see that there's a difference between spirituality and religion. But I love how you have pinpointed that religion does rise from spirituality, right? And the way that you explain it makes so much sense and just expands it even more. The problem comes with the control. The problem comes with imprisoning people's mind, imprisoning people's spirit, imprisoning how they get to connect with the divine, how they get to connect with the spirit as well, and having rules that are more limiting than liberating, really, as you're saying. And this is a conversation that is so important to us as African people, because if we look at our history, there has been so many systems, even beyond religion, as you're saying, where there has been a lot of control within our movements, within our access to resources, land, money, our ability to thrive has been really limited because of colonization, really, and our history, which has been a lot of telling us what is it that we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be, what is right for us as a people, and what is not right for us as a people. And this is where I think in the past, really right now, what we are doing as light workers, as healer, is trying to return and retrieve and reclaim and reposition ourselves so that we as a people are actually liberated, and so on and so forth. But it's an interesting journey, and this is why we're having this conversation of how do we practically actually then decolonize. What might we begin with altogether? Yes, for sure, it's the mental conversations that we're having, but what else can we do as people, as light workers, as everyone who's here? A lot of everyone who's here, they're like mostly light workers, or they're interested in doing this work of spirit. What are the practical ways that you would share with us on how we can decolonize further and truly liberate?
Practically, the first task of any person wanting to reclaim their African identity is find spaces where people still live a vernacular lifestyle. That is and experience what a vernacular lifestyle means and what it represents, so you can feel the contrast between a Western way or modern way of living versus a vernacular way of living. So it means maybe going on holiday, maybe going to visit your grandmother who lives in the rural, and experiencing, immersing yourself into the simplicity of that and understanding in it actually how much wisdom there is behind that. Because the first thing is to experience, because the getting up physically and going to experience that actually is an invitation to spirit as well, that I am taking a journey and I'd like for you to come with me. Other things that I would encourage is that in your way of living, understand and change how you look at things by understanding that our ancestors always learned and brought forth so many things into the space by observing nature and living in cohesion with nature. So your task in also wanting to reclaim your Africanness is that you must find a oneness with nature. There must be a deep connection that you must have as an African person with nature. And the beauty of nature is that it's so diverse that it will be something that you can really establish a firm connection with. Because in that it means you also then on a creational level to connect with the elemental forces of creation, air, earth, wind, fire, because those things are housed in nature, and in that you also then connect that with galactic energies like your sun and moon energy, because that is also a ruling force, and in that those are practical things. It means basically, if as an African African person, spend more time with with yourself, spend more time with your family, spend more time going to places where people are truly free to be African in Africa.
Yes, yes. I'm thinking about, for me in my journey, I've had the every time I've went to my grandmother's yard, I've had the deepest shifts internally. And I would not even tell you what was happening, but I think it was because I was around, as you're saying, around, the elementals, around connecting with the sun and the moon, and just like being grounded in the land and connecting with the wisdom that is all around. It often feels like it's easy to access that in that space as compared to here, because in the cities there's also a lot of distractions, but in a rural area there's not much distraction. And so I've found myself deeply shifted in those spaces and deeply healed as well, in a rural setting as compared to here. So I definitely agree with the need to go back to that. And it's been interesting for me because I've been doing mapping and archiving as well. I've mentioned this with you, that I've been archiving African indigenous systems and thought and practices. And what has been happening is I've also been on this project of naming things, where I'm very aware of like my background having been westernized and being educated in the Western ways. And now there's this point where I'm trying to remap and rename and re-understand. And I'm finding that what we often think is so new, it has always been there. For example, when you're talking about like as African people, we need to rest. I immediately had an image of my grandmother and how all our lives she would always sit under the tree and she would always say that keep heady, which is I'm listening to myself. And that was just something that we're so used to. And now it seems like, oh, there's this awakening of meditation. And you're like, but we've always been those people. We've always been meditative in nature. We've always listened to the self. So this are so available, like this technologies are part of our cultures, but it's so easy to miss them. And then so we then come and we're like, we don't know how to meditate. We don't know how to, but we've always known these things. It's just that we miss them because they're so simple and so easily accessible that we want it to be more complex than it is.
So that is true. And that, speaking of complication, is what undoes a lot of people. Is that we live in an era where we want to wear also many crowns at the same time, where you'll be wanting to go on a journey like we're speaking now as practical ways to decolonize, but you want to reclaim your African identity but still be living in your penthouse in the city, living your very same life, but at the same time claiming your African identity. But as when you think about any spiritual journey, when you go on a spiritual voyage, it is a voyage. You actually let go of certain things, and so that you can give yourself into that spirituality. If you want to go and seek and find nirvana, if you go into your Buddhism, you go to the Himalayas, you go and spend time at the temple. And however many years it is that you go into meditation, but you let go of that which is that you're there. But with our African spirituality, people are looking for shortcuts where they can still remain Western but carry their Africanness, but not realizing that there is an inherent clash because a Western way of living puts things in a binary system. It is either or. Everything is always in opposition. Everything always has to be tested empirically and quantified. There always has to be a quantification of things. But in our indigenous vernacular way of living, it is a qualitative way of living. It's an experiential way of living. the two options is multiplicitous, whereas a Western way of living is duplicitous. And when you look at what that duplicitous Western way of living is doing to the African child globally, you can see the sharp spike in the rise of bipolar diagnosis amongst the African child globally, because we are living a more and more westernized way of living, which is duplicitous, and then you wonder why you then find illnesses like bipolar, because bipolar is two polar opposites that people experience. And that's the thing, is that the mind of the African child is not designed to put things in a binary. It's designed inherently to understand that I can use a shopping bag, I can go to Pick n Pay, buy a shopping bag, and because I bought groceries, bring it back home. When I come back home, I'll use that shopping bag as a bag to use. And when I'm done with it, I'll give it to my grandmother, who makes straw mats from it. So to us, there isn't either a shopping bag or you must recycle it. There are many things that that shopping bag can do to an African child. And when you're then raised in a system that wants you to have an either or, that limitation breaks you, and then it manifests as things such as bipolar, as anxiety, as psychosis, as depression, all of these mental issues that are so prolific amongst us African people currently. And in all honesty, it's amongst us, especially as your millennials and your Gen Z, because we are growing up in a hyper modernized state.
Yes, it is absolutely overwhelming. Before I jump, I respond to what you just say. Just wanted to invite everyone to begin sending us your questions, your comments, and we will jump into that immediately after this. I absolutely agree with what you are saying, and I think that as Africans and the way that our culture has been, we were not created to bypass the human experience and living within the body and allowing the divine to be alive in the body. This is how our people have always done it. And right now, as you're saying, the modern ways and the westernized ways, they have a lot of bypassing connection, a lot of bypassing communications, conversation, love. It is also fabricated, and we are not able to handle that, as you're saying. It is it's not native to us to not be connected to nature, to not be connected to each other, to not greet the elders in the morning. It doesn't make sense to us, and so we struggle a lot with this culture. And it is what you're saying, what is creating the mental problems that we are finding in our community. And I can say that my experience when we would go to the psychiatric hospital as a practitioner, as a psychotherapist at the time, I could essentially see that a lot of what was missing was touch, was connection, was people needing to be spoken to be seen, to be loved, to be active, to be alive, in the physical sense of things and in the communal sense of things, which is what is inherently what we mean when we say Ubuntu, we are who we are because of other people. And because there's been that disconnection in the last couple of years, it's just really has affected us mentally, and affected us in other ways as well. I wanted us to jump into something that you spoke last time when we were talking that I thought was, I've been sitting on it, I thought it was really profound, how it all has also trickled down to other aspects of our lives, these disconnections and the problems that we're having beyond just the mental problems. Thriving in the workplace, thriving with money, thriving with land, and just accessing abundance, and how that's so difficult for us as well, because we are in limbo. It feels like we are in limbo. May we speak about that, and in particular what you shared about land with me last time?
And for me, the land thing, as we spoke last time, is a very, it's a very deep, deep, deep thing. Is that when you look at all of our most sacred spaces as African people, they are either UNESCO World Heritage Sites or they are, you know, world monuments or they are national parks. And within that, that land always really doesn't belong anymore to the actual custodians of that land. So the custodianship has been is taken away. For example, your places like if you're in South Africa, your Kruger National Park, parts of it that are this side, are parts that are connected to people and Dawa people, which is spoken of in Sapa. There's Karanga people that whose places are deeply connected to Makungube, and all of these are national parks that are governed by sand parks. But those people actually have their living descendants who are the rightful custodians of that place, who may be experiencing traumas and things like familial generational curses, where perhaps an entire bloodline is barren, an entire bloodline of women is unmarried, an entire bloodline of males do not work, they are all end up in jail because of a lack of access to a land that is inherently theirs. So the land for me represents our entire struggle as a people is that even when you see other than African people becoming successful, there isn't an each one type of way. There isn't a let us all grow together. It's almost as though for an African person to become successful, you must either become westernized where you have that of your own. And it comes from the fact of that we are so dispossessed because we don't have land, and land is the primary resource when you even speak of it in economic terms. So even when you become successful, to us, that is the first time we ever experience actually having any kind of possession, that we are so insecure in it that even when we have abundantly, we don't realize that because we have never known what it is like to have abundance. You have never known what it's like to wake up and for 100 hectares, that is your homestay.
Mm.
So it's those kinds of intergenerational traumas that then afflict us on a psychological level, they afflict us on a spiritual level, they afflict us on an economic level, and they afflict us on a social level, and all of it ties to the fact that we do not have access to the spaces which, like the sacred spaces which we rightfully should have access to do the right kinds of rituals we need to do. Second, in terms of ownership, the correct ownership of the land is no longer in the hands of those that need to own it. So there can never be a coming together because those deities that govern the land are left without a rightful custodian. So there will not be a flow. There will not be a coming together unless there is something that is done to then heal that and fix that.
Mm. Yes, wow. This is so profound when you really think about the interconnection of this. What's coming up for me is thinking about one of our core existential wounds that we have as souls. I don't even want it as human beings. On how when we do come to this planet, um, and descending into the body, into our human physicalized selves, there's always a struggle with feeling like we belong into our bodies, we belong into the land as well, just at a primal level for every human being, right? And then thinking about how then that actually really must be even deeper for us, because if it's not even about feeling like we belong in the body, but also belonging in the lands that are at this point we're still not yet feeling like this is our land, or we're not in the lands of our people, of our ancestors, and how that creates a sense of like we don't belong. Where do we belong as a people? Where do I belong as a human being? And yet again will create the kind of problems that I see in my work as a psycho-spiritual healer, where there is a lot of, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I belong. I don't know how I'm supposed to live my life. And it's because of, there are other personal things, yes, but there are also all these big things that we are talking about. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I am.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So I'm just, yeah, I'm just thinking about, I'm hoping like everyone who's joining us, we've been talking a lot about really reclaiming, and part of that is through becoming even more aware and opening our minds to see this, and then doing what you were just sharing with us in terms of like the practical ways that we can begin to return home. We can begin to return home to our lands as well, or in our ancestors. But what came up for me, and it's a question that was asked the other day, and I said that we will address it here: how to surrender to the indigenous ways why you are a modern person. Like how it always feels, you were saying that, you know, the Western ways is an either or type of thing, and ours is and both. How do we do and both in our lives, especially as people who are like healers and supporting other people, and who might also be struggling with these divisions, these bipolar tendencies as well, if that makes sense?
So for me, I love to use practical examples. So a lot of people now, if we look at social media, of African people are institutions, and that's something that wasn't very common. It's very trendy. So a lot of people, when they first try sushi, they actually don't like it. They don't enjoy it, and then they will skip a while, and then they'll try it again, and they'll probably be like, okay, but I'm still not so sure about this thing. After that, that person often will wake up one day and will be like, I am craving sushi. So when it comes to how to surrender to the indigenous, do that. Make it be like an exotic dish like sushi. Try it. You don't enjoy it, take a break. Try it again. The very same thing, and see how after a while you feel about that. So it could be something as simple as saying, I will perhaps go to a traditional ceremony and see what it's like. And just like that, because otherwise the surrender has to happen. Because as an African people, our spirituality lives within us. And once you start asking yourself, how do I surrender? That is a call. Your spirit, your spirituality is asking for you to surrender to your Africanness. So whether or not you do it willingly or unwillingly, that spirit, you who is all knowing within you, will make things and will bring life experiences that will bring you to a point of surrender. So it's easier to find ways to give yourself into it.
Mm. Mm.
Because even in itself, surrender is not straightforward. You can either, they can be peaceful surrender or forceful surrender.
Mm.
And for a lot of people who are modernized, it's always up until they say, my ancestors took away my job, did this, until they finally answer the call to their spirituality. But there's no need for that. There's no need to even get to the point where your spirit must coerce you, never mind reach you to the point of surrender. Once you hear the call, you start asking things around your African identity, start being curious about your African identity and spirituality. That is the call. Answer it through whatever is accessible to you around at that time.
Mm. Yes, yes. the divine will. It's that we like negotiating with the call. So we like, can I just do it this little bit today? And tomorrow I will do another one. Can I do it next week? So I think this is what we struggle with. We like negotiating with the divine will and our soul call. And yeah, there's also a lot of noise, too much noise from the outside world, and too many distractions that that it's easy to delay. It's easy to to put it up for next week and to never ever leave. But what then happens to us when we never answer the call, when we never leave, when we, when we don't begin? That's a question for everyone to ponder on. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, I'm receiving love from Gogo Taz, my favorite people, Togoza. This is her sending love to us. Do you know Gogo Taz?
I do.
She is amazing, isn't she?
It's amazing, sweetest soul.
Yes, indeed, a beautiful soul as well. And Nunifan really loves the setup of the candles and the whole vibe. Okay, thank you so much for this comment. It seems like we're getting a lot of love from everyone. And Gogo Iteboheng is also loving your energy. It's really amazing. Your energy is amazing. Very calming. Yes, this is from Gogo Iteboheng. We had her here for day 3. She was talking holistic healing with us. Thank you, Gogo. Gogo. Is this energy cultivated thing, or has always been there, or it came because of surrender?
I think I've always been like this. I have actually always. I don't have a very loud voice. I'm not a very hyperactive person. I have a very childlike spirit, so I get excitable like a child. Like in general life, I'm always in a state of zen. So you would almost say that I seem a bit slow. So in part of my brain when I initiated, I got to understand that that's just, I've always been lived inside my head. That's that's where it comes from, and living inside my head then makes me understand that I needed to live inside my head so I can learn to live inside my spirit, live inside my emotions, live inside all of the other communication channels within myself. And so I'm always trying to maintain that and always be within, like each
Yes.
As you say with your grandmother, I'm always that's where the energy comes from.
Yes. Yes. Yes, I love that. I'm always listening to self. Get making pain. Okay. So still more amazing comments from Gogo Itebogen. She's saying you are extremely humble, but very strict. She loves how you allow your guides to take space and speak through you. Wow, so profound. So I love it.
If I could say one last consideration about put everything in a nutshell because I love to give people something palpable that they can walk away from.
Mm.
Is anybody who's seeking for practical ways to decolonize understands that we are a trinity first as people. We are mind, body, spirit.
Mm.
And so, in order to decolonize, your steps of decolonizing need to be on a mind, body, spirit level. So, practically on a mind level, a lot of us are very good. The woke society, the Twitter activists, we're all very good at reading your books like Decolonize the Mind by Yongungi wa Kiongo, going into that whole Afrocentric rhetoric, reading up about Kemet, understanding all of that. So that is very good. That
Mm.
box I'm not so worried about in terms of us who are extremely westernized because that's how we're taught that the mind is how you access everything. On a body level, it means the body is so simple. It's in what you feed it. Go back to an indigenous type of diet, try it for a month and see what changes within yourself. Take this body of yours to this natural spaces which touch upon the elemental forces. Go to a mountain, go to a river, go to the place where you see wildlife.
Mm.
With this body of yours, our African people always were active. Do some kind of something that makes you actually have to be physically active. We, we as an African people, it is so important to keep your body moving because it
Mm.
is even in our belief that if you're always sitting doing nothing, even the energies of manifestation that you cast out will also not manifest the same as your action. So
Mm.
your manifestation is mirrored by what you take your physical body through and your activity. That's why we're also so hard working. So recreate that. And then when you go on a spiritual level, go then on a spiritual level and then understand that any spiritual, you can use any spiritual system, even if it was Wicca that is not African, so long as you understand the principalities around the cosmology, that is around a connection to nature and observing and understanding nature so that you can understand the divinity that nature represents. When you speak of, even in a religious sense, when they speak of the secrets of heaven in Julian Picaral. It's in nature. All
Mm.
of those secrets, because all innovation and everything that we have created as a people is biomimicry from mirroring some sort of technology that comes from nature. We
Mm.
learned how to build houses from the cave. We learned how to make fire from lightning. We learned how to cleanse things from the rain. All of those things, and those lessons are infinite in nature, but it means
Mm.
for you to connect and understand that then you must ask the deities and the divinity to access you to that. And those are practical ways. And on then a holistic sense, actually get to know who you are, who your ancestors are, where they came from, what they like. They don't have to come from a royal lineage for you to have an interest as to my grandmother had so many siblings. Her sister was married to so and so. Her other brother who lived way. Know your history so that some of the things that made them happen, the coincidences that happened in your time and space, if you have knowledge of some of the familial patterns, the pathology of your family, you are then able to recognize that, oh, it means that because I keep on going into a repetitive pattern, like my great grandmother's sister who always got married and divorced after 2 years, it means that she is the ancestor that is asking for me to feel that trauma of hers.
Mm.
But without the understanding of the familial pathology, you will not be able to then use the divinity of Upupata and of ritual to be able to actually align and bring the things that will serve you into space.
Wow. Yes, 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 yes. I love this so much. Thank you so much for breaking it down for everyone who's here to see how it's in all aspects, in all levels, within the mind, within the body, within the spirit, the soul, that we can do this. There is a need to move now from just knowing to now experiencing and doing the practical activities that we need to do to actually decolonize and return to what is native, what is indigenous, what is Asian for us as people, as human beings. I love it so much. Thank you so much, Thokoza Gogo.
Well,
Yes. What's coming up? It's more of just gratitude for the work that we are doing. This is from Mukulu Utile, who's joining us tomorrow. We're going to be talking about traditional medicine tomorrow. He's thanking us for the job that we're doing today and helping with awakening African spirituality for the community. Thank you so much, Nicolas. That's good. Wow, amazing. So for someone who wants guidance and to go deeper with decolonizing themselves and really returning to indigenous knowledge and systems with you, how can they, what are the many different ways that they can work with you or access more on this topic?
So I'm available on social media as Gogo Khanyakude. I have a work line which would be plus T708 no 81538309 and they can just send me a message. I think with social media and us having this conversation on this platform, the easiest is to connect with me on my social media handle called Khanyakude. And then you can go into conversations around some of the work that I do because I do work as a healer, where I do healing work in Uganda. I facilitate initiations as Kobel, and then as you mentioned, I run an indigenous knowledge consultancy which has to do around a teaching of indigenous knowledge systems. So I consult on indigenous knowledge systems, running programs where we create safe spaces to be African in Africa, programs like hike, retreat, conferences and talks. And then also so on all of that, it's just whatever it is that you found and interest in. I'm a very approachable person because I wouldn't have social media if I didn't want to interact with people. So send me a message and we can speak.
Okay. So can I just get the number, or is it better to just go directly to social media and they will access the number there?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
And that's great. Okay. Oh, this has been so amazing, so profound. My ears are buzzing. I'm still settling in. Thank you so much for this shifting and profound conversation on the political influence. So
and light for tomorrow's conversation. Hopefully, I'll be able to join it as the Drosso weekend has passed.
Oh, so may you repeat that again? I didn't hear.
I'm saying light for the conversation tomorrow, and I hope you'll be able to join in and as to watch because the Drosso weekend is over.
Yes, I agree. I'm also looking forward to tomorrow, traditional medicine tomorrow, and going deeper into elevating our consciousness on the last day. So 2 more days to go, and we will have the summit all done. It has been a profound, I don't know who I will be after this, but yes, definitely not the same person. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. See you tomorrow, 6 p.m. Good night.